Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Startup and Career Show, your destination for inspirational stories and real life experiences of startup founders, corporate leaders, and authors. I'm your host, Rushab, in conversation with none other than Mr. Harit Nagpal, CEO of Tata Play, formerly known as Tata Sky, India's largest content distribution platform. In an illustrious career spanning 4 decades, Harit served at leadership positions at Vodafone, Shoppers Stop, Pepsi, Medico, and Lakme. He co-authored a case study on the subject of disruption, which is now part of the curriculum at London Business School. Based on his vast experience, Harit has come up with his new book, Adapt to Thrive, Not Just Survive. Through 10 different stories across the globe, he talks about the importance of adaptability to thrive in this volatile world, so-called AI-powered world. So we are glad to have him on the show to talk more on this. Welcome, Harit, to the Startup and Career Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over. Thank you.
So, Harit, you've had an illustrious career spanning 4 decades across 5 to 6 industries. So, can you briefly share your journey? How did you start? How did your career progress all these years?
Well, I don't think it was anything that was planned. It just happened, so happened, because when we started off 4 decades ago, almost everything was in the public sector, all services. Therefore, we were only left to sell soaps and paints and things like that. So I joined from the campus trade. I joined Lakme, and then Marico was transforming. I went and moved from cosmetics to coconut oil as such, and then Pepsi was setting up shop in India, and they were looking for some people. So that was a big opportunity. So I moved there, spent about 5 years there doing operations and a bit of marketing. And that's when the services bug hit me because, like I said, when we finished education, services were in the public sector, insurance, airlines, hospitals, you name it. I mean, everything was in the public sector. So the services sector was opening up. So I started with Chopper Stop, and then telecom was opening up. So I went into telecom, and that took about 9 years in various positions, India and overseas. And then media was trying to get organized from being a cable-led business, which was highly fragmented, to DTH, which was starting to open up. And that's when Tata Sky happened. It was almost about 14 years ago. And one thing led to another. So even though I've spent about 14 years at Tata Sky, now Tata Play, it doesn't seem like that because every morning is a new morning. Every morning there is either a competitive move or a technology move or a regulatory move that keeps you awake. And your day goes by. So that's been the journey, really.
Wow, this is incredible, and you're spot on. I mean, so the book that you've written, and you've got an interesting title, Adapt to Thrive, Not Just Survive. So, Harit, can you share a couple of instances from your journey because you've definitely thrived, and not just survived in this ever-changing world as well.
See, if you look at the cover of the book, there is a chameleon there.
Yeah.
And look at the life of a chameleon. I mean, a chameleon's life was the same as another chameleon's was, say, 5,000 or 50,000 or even 5 lakh years ago. Their quality of life has not changed because a chameleon adapts for sure. When it moves from a brown surrounding to a green surrounding, it turns green. But it adapts only to survive so that it doesn't get killed.
Yeah.
But your and my life has been getting better every passing day. I mean, the quality of life that you and I enjoyed a year ago was definitely inferior to what we are enjoying today. And it's continuously been getting better only. And that's because we humans tend to look at a disruption, a threat, and try to use that as a stepping stone to reach the next level. And my professional life also has been the same. I mean, every time some threat was posed by the environment or regulation or competition or whatever, when a normal person will say, oh man, another problem, I'd say, oh man, another opportunity. How can we actually use this to take us one step further? Because that just stimulates you.
Yeah.
There's sometimes a organization, motivating the organization opportunity, recharging the organization opportunity. Sometimes there is a new product creation opportunity or new market segment opportunity. And that's how we've catapulted ourselves all our lives. So I would say, while other people or some humans adapt to just blend in and survive,
Hmm.
the ones who grow are the ones who actually use the disruption as an opportunity to step on it and rise.
True, true. Absolutely. So, Harit, for the benefit of early stage startup founders, I wanted to ask you, because in the book you lay a special emphasis on doing a customer segmentation study early on. So, can you elaborate a little more on this aspect? Because I think many startups fail on this count.
I don't think it's limited to startups only. I've seen large companies also fall in love with a product and think everybody would love it and therefore go and launch it, and then fall flat on their face, subsequently realizing that, hey, we loved it, but customer didn't even understand it or
Hmm.
he didn't find it relevant. So that happens all across. It's happened to me. I've also done some products like those, which I was so much in love with that it was very difficult for me to understand why the customer is not loving it.
Hmm.
All in all, to a very large extent, we are technologies in search of customers. Whereas what should really happen is we should really first go out and figure out what the pain points in the customer's life are, or what the opportunities in the customer's life are, and then go back to technology to find a solution for that pain point, and then go back only to that customer. Also, what happens is very often you may have customers, but they're so far away and they're so scattered that the cost of communicating your benefits to them and the cost of physically delivering the product to them
Hmm.
far out, outstrips your margins that you get out of that product.
True.
Or the frequency with which, I mean, imagine a product that you've created. Now that product can only be used on Diwali, or it can only be used on Holi, or it can only be used on Sundays. Your factory can't run only for one season or one day of the week or 1 week in a month.
True.
So the production facilities that you set up, the distribution infrastructure that you set up, you need to recommunicate all these things. So that's exactly what that story is all about. It actually illustrates that you first need to figure out who your customer is. And in fact, the protagonist there says, when he's asked, who do you think your customer is? And he says, could be anybody. Now that's the answer. Or let's go launch and figure out who that customer is. You
Hmm.
can't launch and figure out who your customer is. That's a very, 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 very expensive proposition,
True.
a way of finding customers. Test marketing, either first probing and figuring a product, or even if you can't probe and figure a product, test marketing in a small geography or a small segment is a way to go about doing that. That's a low cost of failing, if at all you are failing, or low cost of learning if there are more learnings to be incorporated into the product.
100%. 100%. It's like failing fast and failing cheap.
Yeah,
If
exactly. It's that. Exactly that. It's exactly that. I mean, there's nothing new I'm telling you. That's what it is. But it needs to be reinforced again and again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And Harit, more often, well, you mentioned, the corporates also go through the same grind and they also make these mistakes. But what happens in case of a startup is because they have a very limited budget, they have a very small team. And so time is finite, right? Money is very scarce. And then if they screw up there, the survival becomes difficulty, right? I mean, that's where the challenge is, and hence I think even for startup this becomes a very, very important area to be focused on before going all out into the market, right? But having said that, I also like the chapter in the book called as Years to the Ground, right, which talks about listening to the customers. So tell me, according to you, how much does listening to the customers matter? Because keeping in mind it does not hurt the business also in the sense.
I mean, it depends on how much priority you give it. I give it 100% priority because in the end, who are we serving? We are serving the needs of the customers. And if we don't go and figure out, we're not serving our technology or our employees. We are serving the needs of the customers. We are there to fulfill the needs of the customers. The customers' lives are also changing like ours are. Old needs are getting suppressed, new needs are coming up. Maybe the product that we've created is not able to fulfill the needs, or while fulfilling the needs, it has got some side effects which are unwanted, unnecessary. So listening to the customers is not only important to figure out new product or new categories to get into. Listening to the customer is also important to figure out as to how well are your propositions able to serve the customer.
True.
And I would urge that it's not only the job of the marketing guys or the sales guys to go out there and meet with the customers.
Mhm.
I think it's the job of every person in the organization to meet with the customer, varying frequencies, varying depths. But I mean, for example, in our case, I had my upbringing in FMCG uh, for the first 15 odd years, where every time you felt a problem, the solution was chalo market chalte hain.
Mhm.
So we would go and meet some customers, and the answers would be there in front of us. Now those habits have not died, even at this age, even after 40 odd years in the industry. Couple of days in a month, you just step out into the wilderness, and since about 60-70% of our customers are based in villages, you end up getting from village to village to village, meeting customers a couple of days. Very, very exhilarating, very rejuvenating, very re-energizing days. New ideas come up, new thoughts come up. And it's not just me who needs to do it. I mean, every function needs to do it, because then subsequently, when we sit down in the leadership team with the leadership team in the room, and somebody suggests an idea, the
Mhm.
CFO doesn't shoot it down, because he's also been to the market, he's also met the customers, and he's also seen the same thing that you have.
Yeah.
I think in the story we tried to say something similar only, where after looking at this young boy who comes in and starts going and meeting the customers, which had never been done in that business, everybody else is curious, कि ये जाके करता क्या है? What does he do in the marketplace? So they also go and meet him, and in the end, they have a business plan which is cohesive, which is collaborative, where everybody is aligned and everybody signed on.
Mhm.
So that's what it does. First, it tells you about the customer, and B, it aligns everybody across the company towards the customer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Harit, I'm intrigued to ask you, how do you take time, because you mentioned you also do it at Tata Play as well. So you also go often, to the hinterland and
Days
interact.
a month, roughly. So about 2 days a month on average. And so there are monsoon months when you don't travel, but there are months then you cover up in the other months by doing 4 or 5 days in a month. And yeah, I mean, you see, you create time for something that you prioritize.
True.
If you think it is important, time happens.
Yeah.
If you don't think it's important, time doesn't happen. You
True.
can say, "Oh, time nahi hai, I'm busy." What are you busy with? If it's important, then it's got to be done. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah. In fact, while we are on this conversation on this topic, I'll wanted to talk about you mentioned touching customers' heart, right? And but it is easier said than done. So, and in the book, you also equate brands to people, right? So can you talk a little more on this as well?
Brands are people. You either like them or dislike them, just like you like or dislike people. So that's the analogy that one I've used in one of the that chapter about the brands. See, that's what I'm seeing. A lot of you watch television for half an hour in the evening, you'll suddenly see 8, 10 ads, and 80% of them are trying to sell you things
Yeah,
without introducing themselves or without making themselves admirable to you. You have to first become a friend, then will I buy something from you. Would you buy something from somebody you don't even know or don't even like or don't even trust? You won't.
absolutely.
So you've taken the analogy of a friend where, the father's probing the son and saying, okay, amongst your friends, who do you like and who you don't like? So the son says, these are the guys I like and these are the guys I don't like. Okay, why don't you like him and why do you like him? And he says, this man spends too much way beyond his limits. He's spending your money. No, he's not, but I don't like his ways. That's why I don't like him. Brands are exactly like that. If a brand does something that you don't like, you are not going to buy from him. You have to first like a brand and then you buy from him.
So, bang on, bang on. Harit, you also give a lot of importance of creating a collaborative and innovative work culture. But again, this is not an easy task because these are so-called intangible things, right? Not easy to measure. So how do you go about building an effective work culture in an organization?
You're right, absolutely. It's you can't just walk in one day into the organization, say from tomorrow we'll be collaborative and everybody will be collaborative. Doesn't happen. There
True.
are many steps you have to take, and it takes years for you to build collaborative organization. I think that over the years, there are two or three, distillates that at least I have found that help. One is that the organization needs to be lean. You can't have too many people. Uh, so you have a lean organization, and then you empower the front line. Every decision doesn't need to travel upstairs
True.
for it to happen. Yeah, large decisions obviously go up, but
Yeah.
every decision doesn't need to. People need to be able to take decisions on their own. And then uh, cross-functional teams should be able to discuss and resolve and take calls amongst themselves at lower levels.
Hmm.
If I'm talking to you and we are both at say level 4 in two different functions in an organization, then our conversation and our decision doesn't need to travel all the way up in the organization, then come down after ratification for you to happen.
Yeah.
If the bosses have got to take the decision, then what is the purpose of my collaboration with my colleague down there? So that's what. And then on top of all this, you need to define the work culture, or what are the elements of your work culture. And you decide basis what business you're in, what stage of the industry life cycle your business is in, what are you trying to do, and figure out what are the two or three things that matter to you, whether it is collaboration or whether it is experimenting that's important, whether it's speed that's of essence right now. And let everybody know that this is what we're aiming for.
Hmm.
So that everybody is working towards also our objective is to gain largest market share, or our objective is to be the most profitable, and we shall do it by collaborating or by being speedy or being experimentative. Now these are the outcomes or behaviors that will get rewarded in the organization. So people know
Hmm.
what are we aiming for, what will get rewarded, what will we get punished for.
True.
So once you declare it openly and keep reinforcing it through multiple means, uh, yeah. So it's not just one silver bullet that will help you. It'll be bunch of things. So first of all, lean organization, empowered frontline, ability to take decisions at the front level, defined work culture, defined objective of the organization, uh, and communicate it to everybody.
True.
And mechanism to reward or punish basis people displaying those behaviors or not displaying those behaviors. You put that thing into place, your home culture, your collaborative culture will happen.
True. True. Well, Harit, while we are discussing on the culture and team building, also wanted to ask you about effective review mechanism because you've dedicated a whole chapter to it. And I like the title that you've given from PowerPoint to 1 point. So can you briefly talk about that review mechanism also for the benefit of our listeners?
No offense to Microsoft, but I hate PowerPoint. Anytime somebody comes to me and says, "Okay, let me show you a presentation," I said, "Why don't you just tell me, talk about it to me rather than And I find Excel, which is again Microsoft product, to be much more effective than PowerPoint, frankly, because you can play with it.
True.
So yeah, coming to reviews, I think it's important that the purpose of the review should not be to punish people or find out who made a mistake.
Hmm.
The purpose of the review essentially has got to be find opportunities for the future. Yes, it's important to figure out where we fail and learn from it, but that should be 20% component of a review, not 80%, which I see in most places.
Hmm.
People are scared of walking into review. They don't sleep the night before. Either they're preparing a presentation to justify what they did, or are wondering what the boss will say tomorrow morning.
True. Yes.
They should be doing neither.
Yeah.
If the purpose of a review is to find out, okay, what are the opportunities ahead for us, and then secondly, I don't like functional reviews where only one function is present. You get only one side of the story.
Hmm.
I think if the purpose of the review is to find opportunities, then every function needs to be present in there so that you figure out whether it is possible or not. Do we have the resources in every function? Is every function aligned? Do we have the tech capabilities, IT capabilities, distribution capabilities, communication capabilities? Do we have room in every function to accommodate that particular initiative if we are going to go with it? and has everybody signed off on it? If that's the nature of your reviews, then there is no reason why the organization will not progress. Otherwise, you're constantly in fear. Aaj kisko maar padegi. That's
Very, 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 very true, very true. Harit, well said as well. But in the start of the conversation, you did mention that survival is not just the only thing. Thriving is also very important, right? Uh, and while you've covered these fascinating stories in the book, I wanted to ask you about that case study that you've co-authored. And how is Tata Play responding to this disruptive technology? Because media has completely changed in last few years.
not last few years, in our lifetime, forever. I mean, we were only on a large, big grandmother's radio, to a transistor, to a cassette player, to CDs, uh, LP records, and now none of that exists, and now everything is digital when it comes to music.
Yeah,
Even on television, we were on no TV to black and white, one channel TV, which aired only for 3 hours in the evening, to private television, color TV to private television channels, to cable to DTH to OTT now.
yeah,
And all of them coexist. It's not that when one comes in, the other goes away. So about 5 odd years ago, that's the time when we realized that yeah, OTT is gaining ground. It's not that it's taken over. It's not that TV stopped growing, but OTT is gaining ground. Now we said, look, what's our role in the OTT world, and what has been our role in television? And when we distilled our role in television, it was a create one single commercial relationship for the customer so that he doesn't have to go to multiple channels and strike relationships with them. And second, make content discovery easy. When he sits down and switches on the television, we created a unique user interface where he pressed 3 buttons in 5 seconds and got to the program that he wanted to watch. So that's the job we were doing. Our job was to make content discovery easy. You press guide, you press entertainment, you
yeah,
press the language that you want to watch it, and the 10 channels that are showing your entertainment in your language are in front of you. Select one of them and you're watching. That's 5 seconds.
yeah,
So we said, when it comes to apps, just like multiple channels in India because of multiple languages and genres, it's going to be 25, 30, 40, maybe 50 apps in the long run. And
yeah.
maybe 20 of them will survive. But 20 is one too many for a customer to wade through in the evening to find what he was looking for. So we
Yes.
said, how about aggregating them? We do the same job here as we did in television. Aggregate them, become one source of buying instead of him going to multiple apps and creating multiple commercial relationships. And second, give him one screen on which uh, content of the genre that he likes and the language that he likes to watch it in is displayed from all these apps in one row.
Hmm.
So that we've done that job. So that's what we spent time about a couple of years in preparing and perfecting,
Hmm.
and launched a product called Binge about 3 years ago, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
which is an aggregation today of about 27 apps. And you can subscribe to those 27 apps for a certain price
Hmm.
or lesser than that. And finally, you select, okay, I'm a fan of Malayalam action movies, and all the Malayalam action movies from these 27 apps will be available to you in one row,
Hmm.
or whatever you like. And then this app learns over a period and throws up to you what you've been watching in the past. More of the same. So that's already in play. We are not only now, as things stand, not only are we selling it to customers in India, they need not be Tata Play TV customers. You can be a standalone customer and can subscribe to Binge. That's one.
Okay.
We are also becoming a backend to many other countries because having invested in this platform, and since this platform is on the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
somebody in an aggregator in Latin America or Africa or America or Europe or Southeast Asia or wherever can actually become an aggregator, and we'll host him.
Oh,
His
interesting.
aggregation, his apps, his customers, his billing system, his brand, his look feel hosted out of India. We've already signed up with two work has started, 2 countries, and we're in conversation with about 8 to 10 of them. So
Oh,
that's another business opportunity that's come up. So that's
So this is incredible because you've transformed the company from a satellite distribution platform, satellite TV distribution platform, to a content distribution platform, to a tech powerhouse now, if I have to
Now
understand
you may
correctly.
turn around and say that OTT was a disruption for our industry, and we said yes, it was a disruption.
Hmm.
But you use the disruption to adapt and make it an opportunity.
True, true. This is wonderful. Wonderful, Harit. So, Harit, one last question before you leave. We are in this so-called AI world, which is disrupting everything. People are talking about being laid off and whatnot, right? So, what are the key takeaways that you want to share with your readers?
No, I don't think it can disrupt. It can take away your jobs and things like that. I mean, when I started working, there was no email, there was no mobile phones, there was no Google, there was none of these things. So these could have taken away our jobs. What we used to do then was, if I wanted to do something, I would spend 8 hours sitting in a library with 8 books and cross-referencing and making a sheet, making a paper, and then going and taking it back to the team and discussing it.
Hmm.
Today, those 8 hours after Google or any search engine were reduced to an hour because you typed what you wanted and 9 references came. You saw all of them in the screen on the screen, selected parts of it, put it on a piece of paper, started discussing within an hour of having thought about it. AI is going to cut that 8 hours to 1 hour to a minute
Yeah.
because you can just write something, and the cross referencing that you do by going to 8 websites is also done by AI.
Yeah.
So therefore, the rest of the day is available for you to act. So it's going to reduce the dirty work that you had to do
Yeah.
and leave you with creative work that you should be doing. Uh, so AI is only going to make our jobs easier, like email did, like mobile phones did, that like internet did, like search engines did. It's it's another leap forward, and I think we should be prepared to reap the benefits of it rather than curse it and say, "Oh, it'll take away our jobs."
True. 100%, Harit. Well, on that note, thank you, Harit, for taking out time today with us. It was lovely speaking to you. Thank you for being on our show.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to all our listeners, it's a must read book. Adapt to thrive, not just survive, especially in this new AI world. And try to answer all those constructive questions that Harit has asked at the end of every chapter. I'm sure doing this exercise will be worth your time.
This is what it looks like.
Absolutely. There it is. Goodbye, guys.
Yeah.
Signing off for now. Bye bye.
Thank you.